Hey there, G3XE here, and today I thought we'd do a little bit of a paint-along, build-along, and just talk about a lot of stuff going on in the wargaming world these days, and some of the gaming stuff that I've been doing. And I'm going to be building and then painting the Khorne Bloodbound Blood Reavers, and this little $12 box, and it comes with 5 really cool, well-posed Blood Reaver guys. So, jump on into it. Take a sip of my coffee there. But yeah, let's see here. Okay, we're going to start with this guy. So, hopefully, if you're watching this, it's going to be pretty slow, but it's just me building and then painting these dudes. And hopefully you have some hobby stuff to do while you're watching. Some models or some painting or some terrain. Or even if you watch my channel for D&D and role-playing games, maybe you're sitting and drawing a dungeon or generating some NPCs. Those are always useful if you make an NPC, because you can stick them almost anywhere. Right. By the way, free NPC idea that I've been doing that you can use for D&D before we get into wargame stuff. Fleas. He's a gutter rat type, kind of like Thieves Guild kind of guy, but he's not very good at thieving and he's pretty poor, and people call him Fleas. And he actually is a jackalwere, and can shift human to hyena to the hybrid form at will. And I'm going to be pairing him with another NPC who's actually a good guy, and they're the two people who are kind of hiring the adventuring party to do something. And so it's kind of a trope to have, oh, this person hires you to do it, but it turns out they're the bad guy. That happens far too often. But with the two, I'm going to have Fleas seem like he's more of a good guy, or at least he's more like, I'm just in it for the money, you guys can do whatever. And then the other guy he's with is going to seem shadier and shiftier, and he doesn't want to talk as much. Sort of like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings when they first meet him. But he turns out to be good and will actually help him, whereas Fleas turns out to be a jackalwere. So let's see. There's a free NPC for you. So these fit together really nicely. One thing about these little, there's at retail $15 boxes. They aren't multi-pose or pose whatever you want. The pieces aren't like head, arms, legs. They fit together in a very specific kind of way. Luckily, though, especially with this box, they are just very dynamic models and look really, really intimidating. And these guys are supposed to be just the little fodder cultist dudes for the Khorne Bloodbound. These guys die really easily, and you're supposed to have 20 of them. So what am I going to use these for? Well, while I still play, I still really enjoy Age of Sigmar. I'm playing my lizards, as you can see over here. I am getting more interested in a game called Kings of War, and want to have kind of 2 playable forces. The cool thing about Kings of War is you can use any models. All that matters is the large base on which they come. And so I've kind of, I have the book over there, but I've kind of narrowed down that I want to play Forces of Nature. I realize that there is a pure lizardmen army in Kings of War called the Salamanders, but I like the idea of the Forces of Nature because I can use my lizards as well as other models. And it's nice, really, the boundaries of the game are really defined. It is, you just on 2 pages see all your units in your faction. Everything has common elements and rules, and its focus is not really narrative, but it's for game. This is a very much a tactical game, and I kind of want to get into it and see how I like it. And so far, the rules are very simple and really nice and easy to learn and well defined. Rules for terrain and stuff. Like, there's a lot of times in Warhammer, and of course, especially in D&D, you should rule based on what's at your table. Say, oh, well, if you don't know, make up a rule on the spot. Or in Warhammer, like, if you don't, if you're not sure what this terrain is, you can make up your own rule for it, or, say it's impassable or whatever. Kings of War is the exact opposite. Like, everything's nicely, clearly defined. Everything has height levels, so, you say, okay, well, this is going to be a height 2 terrain. These people are this, line of sight's determined by that rather than true line of sight. From models. Like, the models don't really matter. But that, from the hobby standpoint, allows you to have really interesting kind of dynamic, almost like a diorama on your little big regiment bases. So yeah, Forces of Nature. Now, I have luckily been able to scrap together 1,000 points Forces of Nature from with only buying one model, and the model was a $2, well, technically $4 model. But, so this I had already from D&D. This is just like a toy that I found at a toy store, and he's my Hydra, and my rationalization is, and this was like $5, I got it a long time ago. My rationalization is that this is a Hydra, but he's only had his head split once, so that's why he only has 2 heads. He's in the process of growing bigger. Then these I actually got a while ago, also for D&D. They're Skylanders, I believe, models for Earth. Well, I'm using them as Earth Elementals. Well, if you ever go to a place called Movie Trading Company, if you have that, or it's called Vintage Stock in other places, at least the one near me has like used Skylander stuff. And one of these was $1, and it was like 4th of July sale, and they had buy one get one free. So I literally spent $1 and got these 2 Earth Elemental things. So, and they have dragons and other stuff. They're pretty good for D&D. I have some coffee here. So that's them. I already had this guy for D&D. He's my Forces of Nature Druid. And then I have a regiment of, and then the rest are filled out by my lizards. And I just put them on a big square green base, and they're not glued down. The model that I bought specifically for this is I wanted a winged unicorn, because I thought that was so cool. And this is just a unicorn model. And then wings from a different model kit bashed together. And it's cool because you can cast spells. I just really like that. So anyway, who do the Forces of Nature want to battle against? I'm thinking the Varangur, who are kind of like the Chaos people in Kings of War. So that's what these are going to be for. This 5 models is enough. Like, technically it's like a troop's supposed to have 10 models in it, but since the models don't actually matter, it's totally fine if you just fill up the thing with as many as feel appropriate. For instance, this is supposed to be, the Greater Elemental is supposed to be 3 Elementals, but those guys are bigger than you'd expect, so I can only fit 2. It's fine. It doesn't really matter. So that is what I am buying these for. And then with Varangur and Chaos, it's like you can get third-party models. I mean, Reaper Bones models will be perfect for a ton of those guys. They have cave trolls on their team, and basically, like, they call them thralls, but they're essentially just like, people they've captured and forced to fight in their armies for them, and all that. So, just get rid of the mold line here. I'm kind of pumped for that. And, of course, I'm still playing Age of Sigmar, and there's more people, I think, playing AOS in my area than Kings of War. But one of the good things that I like in Kings of War is that in this one little book, well, in technically 2 little books, but they're like this thin, you have all the rules for all the armies. And it's very clearly defined, whereas in Age of Sigmar, there's a wide range and cool history of models. Like, don't get me wrong, it's awesome that they have so many different units and potential things. If you want to, like, feel really competitive and learn all the rules for every model, I mean, that is a Herculean task. And for instance, I've been playing this guy who plays Zinch, and those are their allegiance and spell rules and stuff are the rules that aren't available in the General's Handbook, and for free or whatever online. And so I don't know. Beyond that fact, he's just really good, and I'd never win. But even though he's playing Chaos Demons, and then Lizards or the Seraphon have like special rules for uh, for against demons, fighting against demons. So even then, I still lose, and it's magic and all this crazy stuff going on. And what's nice is that in Kings of War, I can just read this one little book and prep, and be like, okay, well, I can see the strategy that he might do with this and this. So it's very much more like chess. It's like you learn what each piece can do, and you prepare and practice. Now, AOS, I just enjoy it for its thematicness and coolness, right? I mean, you got space demon lizards shooting down in blasts of meteor astral flame, and when they die, they explode in a burst of celestial light. It's just really cool. And they have a new summer campaign, I think, or not summer campaign, but they have a new campaign that's going to start coming out. Which that brings me to AOS news recently. And if you are following Warhammer and Wargame YouTubers, you probably have already seen like a bajillion things about it. But in AOS, there's a ton of new stuff that's kind of been like, what's the word? I guess given a sneak preview, not to where we can totally look at it, but through the Warhammer community, we've basically gotten all the info for it. And one of those is a new starter box called Blight War, which has the Stormcast Eternal models that have come out since the original starter box in it, a new awesome female Stormcast hero or heroine, and I mean that model is super cool. That's the one that's kind of like, if I were to get one model out of them, I'd want that one, and just have her in D&D as like a sweet paladin or cleric. But obviously with Games Workshop, single models are always kind of like expensive to get. But it's really cool. It has all of those in a nice little thing, and then has all the Nurgle demons from the Get Started Collecting Nurgle box, as well as Horticulus Slimux, which is a new named hero. And he is a slug. If you Google his image, I'm sure it'll come up. It's on the Warhammer community page. And he is hilarious. It is like what are they called? Plague bearer, riding essentially a giant snail who is acting as his like farm animal as he plants the seeds of the Garden of Nurgle. And they have a plow, and he has, instead of a carrot, a little Nurgling that is used as, to entice the slug to keep going forward. I'm really excited to see his rules, because I feel like he's going to have some really fun rules. And if not, then they missed a really great opportunity. But that model is cool. I personally probably won't get it and don't really want it. But I play Nurgle in 40k, not in AOS. By the way, this is my awesome new D20 coffee mug that my boyfriend gave to me. And it was really sweet. And, I mean, it's just super, super fun for Dungeon Masters and everyone else, I guess. But, everyone can be a Dungeon Master, so. Anywho, Blight War, I really personally think it's a better starter and cooler starter than the first one, because I don't know what it was, but something about Khorne berserkers and and the original like Stormcast fighting them just felt like, I know there was a story behind it, I guess, but it felt like it wasn't narratively driven. There weren't stakes. I guess what it was is that you didn't feel like there were any stakes, or at least I didn't. One of the cool things about Blight War is it has a lot of. I know the stakes, and the reason is because within the lore, Nurgle, um, the god of diseases and pestilence and everything, wants to control the realm of life, which is one of the mortal realms, which is all super foresty and nice, and it's like a really beautiful place, but he wants to corrupt it, essentially. And Blight War, I assume, is going to be about them kind of beating back his attempts to send his minions to corrupt this whole entire realm. And that was part of what the Sylvaneth fought against, and Alariel, and all that. To me, that has a more innate story to it, and feels really cool. Beyond that, I think also that maybe it's just that I'm more accustomed to AOS, and the second starter coming out speaks to that. But maybe also what it was is just like, it's a room for one. I can suspend my disbelief for one faction with lots of crazy ornaments on their body and crazy armor, but when there was two, both the Khorne people and Stormcast, and I know I'm saying this as I'm getting ready to Khorne, but like I said, these dudes do not have lots of fancy danglage. They seriously look like straight up just raiders. Like, I can run them in D&D with no issue. But in the original starter box, both sides, the Stormcast and the Khorne, had like all this crazy stuff, and it just made it kind of seem, I don't know what it was, but for me personally, a little bit of suspension of disbelief, and it was a reason why it broke the suspension of disbelief, and it was the reason why I didn't buy the starter. Even though I really did like the Stormcast chaplain guy with the skull head. I wish more of the Stormcast have that style of head. I really don't. Not a big fan of the original. I know I should, if I ever paint a large number of Stormcasts, I'll probably just do head swaps. But anyway, I'm really excited for Blight War, and it looks like there's going to be some cool new rules with, you have a little dial for Nurgle, and it has some sort of effect when you at different points. I don't know, but it seems like Games Workshop is seeing that the success of games such as X-Wing and other Fantasy Flight games, what make large use of gaming accessories, little dials, special dice, all this other stuff. While I'm not really a fan of like going to that extreme, right, where it's like, oh, we have to buy this special dice and we have to get this special thing, it does add a certain interesting element to the game when you have some kind of fun little gaming accessory, whether it be a template, a movement template, or whatever, you want. Especially if it has some sort of aspect to it where anyone can make their own or get a hold of it. I like that. I know, again, versus Kings of War, a game with very strict boundaries on what is in the game and what's not in the game, that wouldn't fit. But in AOS, I feel like that's the direction the AOS really thrives in. It's just that fun style of gameplay where characters are character-full because of their cool special rules that go along with their model. So, let's see. I need the guy with the... Looking for the guy with the axe. That shouldn't be hard. Because they all have axes. Let's see here. But this is nice. It's one nice little compact sprue. And, yeah, this guy. Anyway, Blight War seems really cool. And boy, I really do want one, whether it be through Shadespire or whatever, I just want one female Stormcast model, because I'm going to make a D&D character from it, because I really like the armor, and I I don't want the helmet on. I like that they have the helmet off and like with hair and stuff coming out. And I want to make a female paladin D&D character from that model. But that's my own kind of personal reasoning. Either way, I think if they want, if they're thinking, okay, Space Marines are our old mascot, if Games Workshop, right? And we want to make Stormcast kind of the new face, maybe not of the whole entire company, but to get more people into the game, to get a new generation in, which I feel like is kind of the point of AOS. It was to say our Warhammer Fantasy community is small and old, and not old in age, but old in their existence, I guess. Like it's not many people, would jump into that game that far in, that had gone through all this history, and to where most of the players have amassed giant armies. And obviously people do, but there's something to be said for AOS, and it's a new story, and now is the time to jump in with and get involved with the story, and now everything's new. I heard that they're gonna, a year from now or 2 years, launch an AOS role-playing game. That's awesome, because I've actually thought about doing D&D or an equivalent game within the Mortal Realms, and if you're going to do it right, I think it would be cool. I mean, you'd have tons of realm gates, and it would just be about, like, really BA heroes, badass heroes, going through realm gates and going into crazy monster-filled messes and just doing feats that no ordinary human would be able to do, which is the style of AOS, right? It's the focus on heroes. It's the analog is the old myths, the like Greek myths and like Gilgamesh and all that, like and Beowulf. That is what AOS is more about, rather than the if you saw the latest WebDM video about Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the mud, blood, and shit of the old world. AOS is very much, in my view, you take control of the characters in those myths, right? Of Beowulf, of Hercules, of, these larger-than-life characters of Atlas, carrying the entire planet, because you're fighting, I assume once you get into higher levels, you can be fighting planet-sized dragons and flying through space on a Slan-made magical spacecraft of stone that looks like an Aztec temple, and lizard men will spawn in from the heavens as they're created by the memories of ancient frog wizards, and I mean it's all over the top, which is awesome. So anyway, I'm very excited for that, and that's what I feel like AOS's thing should be. For some reason, just having the two guys in different color armor didn't really work. Like red armor guys versus gold armor guys. That's what the first starters pack felt like. This one is like horrible, disgusting monsters that are hideous abominations versus gold armor guys. And to me, that just speaks more to the story. I guess. Because if you think about it in those old myths and stuff, people usually go up against giant monsters or something like that. It's not usually army v army of equal power. That's very much an old world kind of version of like rally the troops and we'll have a massive death on both sides and have a battle that is reminiscent of battles in actual history, except that it has dragons or whatever. Instead, it is monsters and crazy characters and giants and crazy brave acts of heroics from the heroes. I made a video talking about that I want to keep my heroes heroic in AOS, meaning that I don't like the idea of making it so that you have to target, if you're with shooting attacks, the closest model, because I like to put my heroes in the front, and then everyone would be like, oh, that is a tactical error, and it's like, I get that in the old world style, that would be a tactical error because you want your generals to stay alive so they can general. Very Game of Thrones like, right? But I like, at least in AOS, the style of giant, larger than life characters who lead the people into battle and will do crazy acts of heroics. So, very excited about Blight War. I probably won't get it, but only because I don't play either of the armies. I do think it's a better starter set, and I do think it will mark almost it'll act as a kind of mark in the timeline of AOS, saying, I think that this is Age of Sigmar reaching its, not maturity, but its a young adult now, I guess. We've now officially, I'm calling it, moved out of AOS being a kid and a teenager, right? If you think of the AOS first coming out, that was AOS as a kid. And that's what that first box set kind of represented, especially because it doesn't come with, all the rules within it are the open play type rules. So it's good, I think, also that we get a new box set. And then when the first General's Handbook came out, I think that is AOS in its teenage years. It's fledgling. It's saying this is what AOS from a competitive standpoint would look like. What parts of it are good, what parts of it are bad. We kind of flesh that out. And General's Handbook 2 and Blight War, I feel like, are ushering in, this is the game. It is now a young adult. We're going to have years to come of awesome gaming from it. But we've now, reached its, not maturity, because that's like when you get, that makes it sound old, but, adolescence or something. We've left adolescence. And I can see that too, even in my local game store, whereas most people were not playing AOS. And the first time I ever walked in there and first miniatures purchase I made, I was a box of skinks. And they weren't AOS skinks, they were Warhammer Fantasy Battle skinks right there in that box. I mean, they play for AOS. And I asked the guy behind the counter, like, so I hear this thing about Age of Sigmar, what is this game? And it was his kind of, not bad attitude, but his saying, well, no one really plays around here, people don't really like the rules, that made me say, oh, well, maybe I'll try this Warhammer 40,000. And even though I still really like the skinks, but, and now run them in my Lizard army, it took a while for me to come back to AOS, just because of that kind of, not really discouraging, but saying like, no one really plays it, and if you're new, you'll have more people to play with and more fun playing Warhammer 40k, which is very fun by itself. But that was kind of how I got my first interaction at my LGS on miniatures games. And nowadays, tons of people play AOS there, which is awesome. And so that, maybe it's different from where you live. I don't know. There could have been people who play it since it came out, or people who still, no one plays it. But that's what it's like in my area. Let's see here. Oh, legs. Anyway, so, Blight War, Horticulus Slimex. I forget if the female Stormcast heroine has a name, but I'm sure she does. And then, what else? Obviously, I kind of skipped over it, but General's Handbook 2017 is coming out. And that also looks really interesting, but still, I don't know. Well, I'll get it. And what's weird is that it has all these cool things, but none of them actually entice me into wanting to buy it. The one thing that is enticing me to buy it is that it's going to have artifacts and allegiance abilities for the Seraphon, because they didn't get any the first time around. and that's good. I'm really excited for that because I feel like they could have some really cool artifacts that are very fluffy around them. And but yeah, it does have a ton of awesome other stuff in it. But I just I'm kind of like I don't know. Multiplayer games I typically don't play. I don't get in the. I mean, I can go my way through multiplayer games. I don't know. Uh, I don't need the book, I guess, for that. Points changes. As far as I'm aware, I don't think any lizard points change at all. Then, I mean, I think there's stuff for open play that makes it more random and fun, which I'm excited about that, and I would definitely like to try it, but I don't think that would be enough for me to spend $25 or whatever it's going to be just for the book. For me, I'm very much a if I'm spending money on the hobby, I want to be spending the money on models. I like RPG books because they give you almost like, I don't want to say limitless, but far more bang for your buck when it comes to what you can do with them. Because any RPG book, as long as you're using your imagination, can be applied to so many different things. Like, people who get really stuck on the game mechanics of RPGs, which I do like the game mechanics of RPGs, but I mean, who feel inhibited by them, the whole point of RPGs is that you can do with it what you want, and it is your game, and it is literally a game where you can do anything, both in game and out of game, with it. So I have tons of 4th edition books, and I still use them to this day. I have books from I never played 4th edition is when I started playing D&D, but I never played 3rd edition. But I have a book that I got for really cheap from 3rd edition that's like the Manual of the Planes, and they have Manual of the Planes for other editions as well, obviously, but this one was like $7. It was like, super cheap. And it's like they're the same planes. It's really interesting. So RPG books are different. However, in Wargames, I would rather spend money on models because models are awesome, and rather than just rules. Because in Wargames, you are constrained to the rules if you're going to play with strangers that you don't really know or in some kind of competitive setting. Like, you can obviously make homebrew rules, but you're far more constrained to the rules in Wargames than in RPGs. So I really don't like buying the books because it just feels like a tax that I have to buy, which is one of the reasons Kings of War appealed to me, because you really only have to buy one book, and that one book was, with tax, about $20. It was not that bad. And it has all the armies in it, and all the magic items and everything. AOS is nice because you don't actually have to buy anything. You can just download the PDFs offline online, which I really like that. But I bought the Seraphon one because I really have a soft spot in my heart for lizards, and I really wanted to read the lore on them. I used to have a pet lizard when I was little, and they were always my favorite animal. So it's kind of why I was like, Age of Sigmar, you can play lizards? I'm in. Alright. But the General's Handbook was kind of a begrudging buy for me, weirdly, because I like open play. I don't mind not having points. I bought it because the General's Handbook is what got the community in my area to grow, or at least begin to grow, and I can't get a game in without saying, just doing a points level. But I really didn't, it's not lore in it. It's not stuff that can be expanded in RPGs and give you cool ideas. Like, I can even use my Seraphon lore book, or whatever it's called, but Battle Tome, for RPGs, like write adventures, with it. It's got great names, great cool pictures, everything. General's Handbook, it's just like, okay, this is an expanse on how you play the game. And a lot of the rules I wouldn't use. So to buy the next General's Handbook, I'm like, I'd rather spend... I mean, that's enough money. You could buy almost another whole box of troops and just build those. And so that's kind of my thoughts on General's Handbook 2, but I guess I'll buy it because I want to support Games Workshop, especially since they've made a lot of changes that are really good business practice-wise. And I really want the Seraphon special stuff. But, begrudgingly, I don't, in Wargames, I would rather have new models than new books. I'm going to see how little I can spend, speaking of, on a Varangur Kings of War army. My target is to not break $50. And so far I've spent $12, which these are normally $15, but 20% discount, which is a common discount you can find at a lot of stores, including my local store, Texas Toy Soldier, which is an awesome, awesome wargaming store and club. So $12. I already have a lot of Reaper Bones and other D&D models that look like heroes and bandits and all sorts of people who could be thralls or whatever. So I'm good on that front. And then I think I might buy the Cave Troll models from Reaper Bones, which are like $2 or $3 a piece. We'll see. I'll do an update on how it's going. The other thing I wanted to get to is let's see, General's Handbook 2017, Blight War. Ooh, allies. That's the other big thing in the handbook. That you can now ally stuff. Well, within and to keep your allegiance. People are making a big deal about it, which I totally understand. And the reason is because if you are a competitive player, this is a huge deal and allows you to have cool, fluffy armies or cool, unique armies and still be very competitive. But for people like me who don't really... I mean, I'd like to win a game, but I'm not overly concerned with being competitive. It's like, yeah, well, you could do this before. You can you technically don't even have to stay within an allegiance. And when teaching the game and playing just in my apartment to people from my D&D group, I've used a mixture of death and chaos and destruction as the quote-unquote bad guys, right? So I had the lizards versus some D&D models that I used as orcs, an orc unit. I had some models. I had my demon prince and 40k demons as like chaos parts, and then I had skeletons from D&D that I used for skeletons, right? So I mean, it was just a whole mess of models, but it was like, okay, that's the bad guys. That got orcs and demons and skeletons. I mean, those don't seem like they're good guys usually, and so the allies is like kind of a meh to me, which is another reason I'm not too, like, I wasn't like, ooh, I'm gonna buy this book when it came out. Though, obviously, I don't begrudge anyone who wants to buy it, and it's pretty exciting. But what is cool about the allies is that they're releasing allies box sets, which are like $30 to $40 price pointed box sets with... I guess, under 400 points of certain factions in models. And they're meant to, you can ally them, right? So they have one that's like 2 giants, so you can ally them in destruction stuff. They have one that's all wizards, 4 wizards from Order, right? So, very cool idea, and I really like to get started collecting boxes, and they're great deals, but they're like $70, and that is a high price point. That is like, I've always wanted something more at the Storm of Sigmar level, which I've bought before, and around $30 $5, I think is a great starting or just point for buying cool models. And one of them is going to be, I think, around $30, and it's like a sepulchral. It's like skeletons. It's like one's like essentially looks like a wraith with a scythe, and then it's got skeletons riding skeleton horses, and one other thing in it. And I'm like, oh my god, hell yeah, I'm buying that. Like that is a whole D&D campaign worth of miniatures right in there, because I like to have, you know, cool miniatures inspire me to write D&D campaigns. Maybe that's just me because I'm a hybrid of a war gamer and a D&D player, but I see a miniature and I'm like, I want to write an adventure around this mini rather than the other way around. And that to me is like 5 Black Riders, you know, straight out of Lord of the Rings. We have a wraith thing that's like the awakened spirit of some guy who, you know, some terrible thing happened to him and now he's terrorizing this village or whatever. Very Halloween-like. So I'm excited for that. In fact, it's August. I could have a whole month to paint up and write that adventure, and I could have a Halloween night adventure. That'd be fun. I'll have to think about that. Anyway, I'm excited for those boxes at least. Again, miniatures, not books, right? So, allies themselves, meh. But ally box sets, to where they're more like $30 to $40 deals, hell yeah, I'm down. And so that is cool. And as far as I remember, that's kind of what's been going on in the AOS news recently, which is a lot. I mean, which is nice because there's been mostly 40K stuff, which again, I like 40K, but I don't know if I've announced this on the channel, which, ooh, this is going to be shocking. I'm sure it's going to affect so many people. But I'm kind of done collecting models for 40K. I have a Chaos Army that can, and I like playing power level, and I have about 100 power of Chaos. And that's good for me. You know, like, I love 8th edition, and I'm just settling in. I play usually one specific opponent, you know, every 2 weeks or so, and that is just the kind of level of gamer I am. I don't want to get too much more into it, and I'm not going to start new armies. But I got my Chaos guys, and it was nice because they have I painted some Nurgle, some Khorne, some non-specific, and so I got some different colors in there. And I can use the demons and AOS, and, you know, so where I think, you know, I'm not even going to buy the Chaos Battle Tome the Codex or the Nurgle Codex. Like, again, I don't want to buy books. I have the Chaos Index, and that's got everything even for demons in it, so it's awesome. So I'm kind of set in 40K right now. It's very fun. I'm having fun playing the new edition. A lot better than 7th. At the very least, I am killing things. In 7th, I would always lose, and I wouldn't kill anything, and it would just be like, well, why did I even play? Like, damn it, you know? Which, even me as a narrative, fun gamer, I'm still like, I want to at least remove models. And boy, in 8th edition, I'm removing models. Like, people, you can cause some damage. Hellbrutes, oh my god, my Shelby the Hellbees, they are just wrecking face, and it is super fun. And, I mean, it's a blast. So, that's nice. But yeah, 40K, I'm still playing, still gonna have fun playing it, and still like the lore, but I'm just not, I think I'm reached my peak of collecting and focusing more on fantasy models, AOS models. And part of that is that now there's way more people to play AOS against in my area, because before there wasn't. So. And then, speaking of AOS, which I know I've been already speaking of AOS, like, this whole time, but, let's see, I need 9. There you go. Yeah. The next part of this video, as we round out towards the hour length that I'm shooting for here, I'd like to talk about my, I guess, 1,000 point army for my lizards, or my plan. This is my new not formation, but this is my new like list that I've built, and I don't normally try to make broken or like really competitive lists, but I really am just getting my butt handed to me over and over by the Zinch player, and he's really cool and really nice. But I wanted to try and see if I can do a competitive list and try and beat him. So, with that said, let's see, grab it. All right. Here's the book. I mean, just look at that artwork. It's freaking cool. This book is really awesome. And it even has scenarios in it. I mean, weirdly, it has a lot of stuff about the lizards fighting Slanesh demons. Apparently, that was, like, specifically, that's one of their enemies. Or at least in the story. The list. Seraphon, 1,000 points. So, what doesn't... And it's even... I even got my little troop drawings here. You can... Right? Plotting, right? And so I'm going to try. I'll let you guys know how it goes. But I'll describe what is in the list to you all. So, the main part of the list is made up of the Sunclaw Star Host, which is a War Scroll battalion. For those of you who don't know, War Scroll battalions are essentially like formations. Used to be in 7th. I'm not sure if they have them in... Don't they have them in 8th? I think they do, but... Anyway, the benefit to them is that you can put them all down at the same time, and they afford you a certain benefit. You also pay extra points for them. The Sunclaw Star Host is, I think, the cheapest, especially... It's definitely the cheapest among the ones in the book. And it involves a Saurus Sunblood, who are, as far as I can tell, the Old Bloods are like the generals, but the Sunbloods are like the, like, kind of generals. They're like more of a fighty, they're like stronger in battle, but they're not the most in charge, I guess. Maybe they're more of the religious side, I don't know. Anyway, a Saurus Sunblood and 3 units of Saurus Warriors of any size. That is what is required for the thing. Now, I have just, I had to even out the numbers by buying some Reaper models, Reaper Bones lizards, which are, they fit in. But I just got to 30, which is the minimum you can have to make 3 units of 10, right? So, just got, enough. So it's going to be 3 units of 10 Saurus Warriors and a Saurus Sunblood for that battalion. The Saurus Sunblood has a command ability where any target, you declare a target within 15 inches, and then Saurus models re-roll hit rolls against it in close combat. Then I'm going to combo that with the Star Host gives them 2 jaw attacks instead of 1 jaw attack, and it gives their clubs a Ren Neg 1. So that's 30 dudes with Ren Neg 1. And I believe it's like 3s and 4s to hit and wound. Then also hits of 6s and wounds of 6s do something special for the Sunclaw's like other special ability. He's going to be my general, the Sunblood, and he is going to get Reckless and the Phoenix Stone to heal back up. Then, outside of that, we're going to have a Saurus Old Blood, a Skink Star Priest, and then a Bastillodon. Bastillodon can just do a bajillion damage against demons, and can just do a bajillion damage in general, but also against demons. Oh, also, the clubs that get Neg 1 Rend against demons do 2 damage instead of 1 damage from that War Scroll Battalion. So you're starting to see a pattern here. Then we got the Skink Star Priest, who can summon Starlight as a spell, which deals D3 wounds and gives Neg 1 to hit against demons. So it's essentially a what's it called? Or Arcane Bolt, but with a -1 to hit penalty attached to it. And it's, I think, the same. I think it's casting on a 6, so 1 higher than Mystic or Arcane Bolt. And let's see. Also has the Serpent Staff ability, which rerolls. You pick a unit and within 8, and then the bite and jaw attacks do double damage, or bite/jaw attacks of models with that thing, right? So we already have the bonus getting them 2 jaw attacks. Now the Serpent Staff will pick a unit and say that it does damage ×2 on rolls of 6s. And then the Old Blood gives a buff aura that rerolls wound rolls of 1 for Saurus within 5 inches. So we're essentially buffing up all the 30 Saurus warriors to give them double jaw attacks, -1 rend, and deal 2 damage instead of 1. Then the Sunblood will pick the enemy unit so they can reroll hit rolls. And rolls of 6s, which we're going to get more of statistically because of the reroll hit rolls, with their jaw attacks, which are 2 now instead of 1. 2 jaw attacks. So double the chances to get 6s and rerolls. They'll do ×2 damage as well. And then the ones close to the Old Blood will get reroll wound rolls of 1. And yeah, that is that's a lot of buffing. So, and then we got the Bastildon, who doesn't really buff anything, but just use Searing Beam. So it's essentially based on that, getting that massive block of troops all within range of all the buffs so that they can just eat up Pac-Man style every unit they come across one by one. So trying to put that into, what do I want to say? Formation, I guess, in how I'm going to line them up is that, I don't know, I was working with 3 different ideas on how to line them up. Here's one, the one in the middle. The one in the middle is so that it's this whole thing right here, right? And the enemy unit would be here, and so I'd line them up like that, and I'd come up and then have this unit come around from the side, and this unit come in, right? So the triangle you see there, that is the Sunblood, and each of these squares represent an inch. Then the circle behind him is the Old Blood. The reason for that is that the Sunblood is has 1-inch weapons, whereas the Old Blood has a War Spear, which will do is a 2-inch weapon, so that he can attack as well. Then those 2 big rectangles around them are and ignore this version up here. That's more planning. But those 2 big rectangles around them are troops of 10 Source Warriors. The square is the Skink Star Priest, and I've taken care so that he's within 8 of all 3 units of Source Warriors, so he can pick which one who's going to get the most attacks to give the Serpent Spear ability to. And then the rectangle over here on the side should be within 18 inches max. I forget why. Some sort of ability. And that's the Bastildon. My battle plan is that I want to put down Bastildon first and put him down 18 inches away from where I want this whole other formation to be. Then my opponent will most likely think, oh crap, that's a Bastildon, I'm demons. I'm going to want to hopefully put them as far away from him as I can, out of his range of his Searing Beam. And so they'll put him far away. Then I put down the entire frickin' battalion all in one plop, like whoosh, and they're going to be as close as I can get to the unit that he just put down, or where he, so that'll be the unit that I target first. If all goes to plan, which of course never does. This is also one way of just lining them up all flat. The only problem with this one is that the group of 10 in the back does not get to attack. However, this is the most compact way. And again, the triangle is the sun blood, the circle is the old blood, and the square is the skink star priest. Anyway, if any of you are not natural generals, like I'm not, I think graph paper is a great way to plot and plan, because you can just make each square an inch and then see what what should go where and how far you want to put them away. Especially with this, where you have all these different ranges, and they all have different values, right? So like one's 8 inches, one's 10 inches, one's 18 inches. You want to keep them all straight in your head. That's a good way to draw out, so that when you plop them all down, you can make sure they're all within range of each other. So tell me what you think about this list. It's essentially taking 30 Saurus warriors, but in 3 units of 10, and then buffing them so that they all have neg 1 rend with their spears, with their clubs that deal 2 damage, and then 2 jaw attacks, re-rolling hits, where hits of 6s on one of the units will do double damage. So, and then I'm going to try to eat up 1 unit at a time with them and march them up in a very ordered cohort, which is very Seraphon. That's very much their style. So, I'll let you guys know how that battle goes. Probably, it will not go as I planned, but hopefully this combo will be strong enough so that I can deal some heavy damage. Because the problems I'm having against the Tzeentch demons, he doesn't play like a super cheesy Tzeentch demon list. I don't want to make him out to be like this power gamer. He plays big old blobs of pink horrors, or blue. I don't know, one of the horrors, pink, blue. I don't know. And so they can all cast a spell per turn. And then he's got his Lord of Change. And so the pink horrors always come back because of the demon rule or whatever. And I can never kill enough in a unit, because then they respawn. And then with the morale annoying thing, eventually, like, I'll kill, okay, now there was 10, now there's 6, now there's 2, and then morale, and oh crap, now there's 10 again. And then the other thing is the crazy spells and the destiny dice. I brought a salamander last time, and it does extra damage against demons, and I landed this awesome hit against his Lord of Change, and I was really excited, because I had totally forgotten about his destiny dice, and then he's like, I'm going to go ahead and use the 6. That was my save, because it had like neg 2 rend or something on it. It had enough rend on it that he had needed a 6-up save to stop it, and it would have done like d6 damage or something. And it was, I was like, dang it, those destiny dice, man. They are quite annoying when you're on the receiving end. So hopefully my strategy is that this amount, like, this isn't like a one-trick pony. Like, this is just a block of frickin' bodies with a number of people giving them buffs. And not every buff relies on every other buff. They help each other, but if one guy dies, there's still 30 warriors with 10 bravery, So I'm just trying to beat him by pure I got the bigger hammer, I guess. And with not trying to, I can't out-trick him. As Wargamer Fritz would say, I can't out-tricknology him, because he's Tzeentch, and that's the master of tricknologies. And so I'm just trying to say, alright, 30 frickin' troops, all with buffs, marching forward. I'm not playing any tricks. They're just going to smash into something. The only trick I guess I am playing is that I want my Bastiladon Bassi to go first to kind of say, oh, am I going to deploy on this side? And then he's like, oh, puts, something away. And then I put my whole Sunclaw Star Host. And then move Bassie in to start shooting in things that I need to be shot at. Because Bassie's an awesome tank for that reason. And, yeah. Oh, so I guess that's where I'll leave it. That's just about the hour mark. I guess I lied about doing the painting, but I did build these guys. Beautiful, beautiful models. I mean, the detail, I'm going to have a lot of fun painting them up. I'm going to put a lot of effort into them. And we'll see how my Varangur end up going. And then look out for more Wargame talk next time I play AOS, and how my Seraphon anti-Zinch list plays out. Hopefully I'll win. I actually haven't won a game of Age of Sigmar ever, which is kind of sad. But I'm not a very good general. I just like to throw some dice and remove models from the table. And that is one benefit from my games with the Zinch players, that I'm removing models from the table. It's just that they get put right back. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.